Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's noon East Coast time today, and I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College and the Paying for College 101 group. Today, we offered to be a AMA, any sort of questions that you want to talk about for merit scholarships. I have slides that I normally go through. I can go through some slides. I can see what your questions are and maybe just go directly to slides that answer it. I'm kind of open to do whatever people want. It's middle of September, so not sure where people are in the process. Some people might still be looking for colleges, which is perfectly fine. Other people might be a little bit more settled on the college list and are working on essays and wondering if I got a question earlier, wondering how important it is to apply early. So if you can put in chat kind of where you are in the process and what type of questions you might have, and then I can get a sense of whether I should start with some slides or maybe just answer questions directly from what people have. Okay, somebody said they need recommendations for Common App best practices. Okay, good question. Somebody asked, can I set the stage this year generally for scholarships and merit aid given uncertainty with funding? And just to be clear, you say you're talking about the funding from the government to colleges. Okay, expanded. Does my child need both one page and expanded? Okay, so far there's like a mix of questions about Common App, applying, and merit scholarships. Okay. Okay. I'm going to start going through these questions and then we'll just see how far we go. And okay. So the first question about need Common App best practices. I can tell you a few, but I'm also going to direct you to, I think we did a really good job. We do it every year. We did it just last week, a webinar on, how to fill out the Common App. The person who did the webinar is Ellen Whalen, and she's actually amazing at working with students on the Common App. So let me just get that link for that webinar for you. But, basically, wait, let me just get the link. Okay, so here's the link, and the webinar was called How to Avoid These Common App Mistakes. Okay, so my quick important tips is that whatever colleges your student is applying to on the Common App, make sure they go through to really set up that college and answer all the questions that the college has, because there are could be additional questions or essays that the college wants a student to answer. There could be supplemental essays that might be tied to the major that the student is picking. There might be additional essays that are tied to an honors program, and you're not going to know that sometimes. You might not know what those additional questions are until your student completely fills out all of the questions and information related to that college. So doesn't mean the student has to submit, but they should just answer all the questions to make sure that they see any additional information that the college is asking, so that your student at the last minute doesn't realize, oh my God, I'm submitting, and now there's an additional essay that popped up. So that's one thing. The second thing is we spend a lot of time in that webinar going through, or Ellen does, going through students' activities, and really to just make the most of the space that's provided. The order in which your student, shares their activities is important, because sometimes the person reviewing it may not get past the first few activities. So you always want to put what's most important to the student, or what might connect most to what the student is interested in studying in colleges at the top. And again, I really highly recommend you looking at the webinar, because Ellen also shows little tricks about where to use, even just how to use capitalization, not to use periods. Every little thing takes up a character. How to kind of transform just a regular activity into highlighting what the student actually did, or what the results the students got at that activity. So those are my two quick recommendations for Common App best practices. The third is you can make a PDF of the students' Common App before they submit, and that just might be easier to review everything kind of in a PDF form than going through the actual Common App platform. Okay, so I hope that helps. Can you set the stage this year generally for scholarships and merit aid given uncertainty with funding? So I think what you're referring to obviously is the federal government is not providing certain funding to a lot of the research universities and some universities in general. I wish I had a straightforward answer. I think that this can go in either direction. And honestly, I think we're just going to have to wait out and see a little bit how the fall goes. Maybe let me explain a few incidents that happened at the end of last season, if you guys may or may not be aware of. But things like Syracuse University, as of May 1st, which is kind of the decision day, although it's not official anymore, I guess realized that they weren't getting enough yield from the students who they accepted, and they did a big push to go out to students who they had accepted, had actually given merit scholarship awards, and increase the offers, because they wanted to pull those students. I'm sure they got students to accept, but they also got a lot of backlash, because people thought it was kind of a crude approach. But it started to highlight that, yes, colleges are a little nervous that they might not be able to get the yield that they normally do. And yield is the number of students who actually decide to enroll in the college based on who they accept. And they may not be hitting their revenue numbers. So that happened in May. And then again, you might have heard, like in kind of at the beginning of August, or maybe even the end of July, some selective schools. I can't remember them specifically offhand. Duke was one of them. I think Rice was another. Brown was another, that went to their wait list and took a significant number of students off of the wait list. That was really late in the season. I honestly hadn't seen that from those levels of schools in a very, very, very long time. And a lot of people believe it was because they were nervous. I don't know maybe as much about funding, but they were nervous because of international students not being able to show up in the fall. So I think there's two things. There is funding, and there is the international component for particularly schools that rely or have a larger percentage of their population in the past that they have taken from international. So, so to the question about what it will do for merit scholarships, I can argue both ways. I can argue what Syracuse did. They kind of played their hand and showed that they might have been below their targets and were willing to up the offers. And so they may do that earlier in the process now, so they don't get to the point of May 1st and have that situation. So I can potentially see some schools increasing merit offers because they just want to maybe put out their best offer initially and secure students and get them accepted. But other schools, may truly have financial constraints, and they may have to cut back on some of the financial aid. I hate to say it, probably the schools, not the elites, but maybe like a tier or two down that might have given a combination of need-based aid and merit, they might also forego some of the need-based aid because they would rather get in a student, even if they have to give them merit scholarship, that doesn't necessarily have financial need. So those are just my thoughts. I guess we're going to have to wait to see, how the season rolls out. And we might see some kind of hints with like the different waves of admission decisions that happen. Okay. Um, Someone saying putting together apps right now, hoping to send them out in the next 7 to 10 days. That's great. I mean, you're definitely on the early side. I don't know if any of those applications are rolling admissions. And let me just talk about that for a second. There's, rolling deadlines, and then there's there's rolling admission, not necessarily deadline, but and then there's early admission, which is early decision and early action. I mean, if your student wants to completely get them off their plate and they feel comfortable that they've done everything and they just want to hit submit, in the next 7 or 10 days, then great. But they shouldn't feel pressure that honestly, students sending in their applications before an early admission deadline, the college isn't going to look at it early. They're still recruiting. They're still sending out the admissions offices to high schools to do, information sessions. So if it's not rolling admission, colleges will be looking, at applications as soon as they are sent in. But early admission deadlines, they wait until the deadlines to start looking at applications. So again, I'm just saying that your student shouldn't feel pressure if they want a little bit more time to look over their essays or applications. They still have it, but I also wouldn't wait to the day before a deadline. If your student is ready, then send it the week in advance, because I have seen many times over the past few years where there are just technical glitches that happen, within the 24 hours leading up to the actual deadline, and colleges aren't very forgiving because they feel that students should know the deadlines and they shouldn't be waiting to the last minute even if there's a technical problem. So just my 2 cents about when to send in the applications. Okay, let's see. Expanded resume. Does my child send in both one page and an expanded resume? My question, Kelly, would be, is the college asking for the resume? So that's the first thing. If the college isn't asking for the resume and your student is submitting it as like extra evidence, extra support, they honestly probably aren't going to look at it because colleges just don't have the time to look at extra material that they didn't ask for. There are some colleges that ask you to submit an additional resume and go ahead and do it. And I would just make it as professional as possible and make sure that the resume, I would compare the resume to the activity list. And even though maybe you have some of the same information on both, but that the resume is expanding and giving more information than the activity list. I wouldn't just make it like a repeat of the activity list. Even if the same item is on both, make sure that the resume expands on that activity. I don't really think one page versus multiple. I mean, I wouldn't go past two, but if it bleeds over to a second page, it makes a difference. Again, to me, the bigger difference is, did the college ask for the resume, or you're just uploading this as extra information, and that will honestly probably annoy them and they won't look at it. Okay. So we are currently working on the Common App right now. What aspects of the Common App itself impact the likelihood of receiving merit aid? I honestly, what aspects of a student's application in general will likely impact merit aid is definitely their academic profile. That's probably primary. That's really one of the main purposes that colleges are using merit aid. I mean, two main purposes. One is just as a pure discount so that they can make you feel better to say that your student got a scholarship. But there are definitely a lot of colleges that use it for a selective purpose, that they want to attract a stronger academically, motivated students. So, the test scores, your students' grades are going to be really, a strong piece of what impact merit. That's not necessarily anything to do with how you fill out the Common App. And then some colleges definitely have additional applications or additional essays that are related to merit. And yes, those essays will make an impact on merit scholarships. So I can't say there's anything in particular, one thing on the Common App that's going to make or break a student's capability of getting merit. It's really their academic profile and how the college is evaluating merit. One thing I will say, and this is Nancy asked the question, is I would kind of look a little bit closer at the colleges that your student is applying for merit and understand how they offer merit. So are you guys familiar with, well, there are some colleges, and if I go through the presentation, we talk about like kind of different categories of merit scholarships that colleges offer. And one kind of category, and this is just something that a name that we've created, is called automatic merit. And what that really means is two things. One is some colleges actually give a merit scholarship to almost everybody who applies. And you can see those in certain numbers. And I'll pull it up. I'll show you what numbers where you can see that. Other colleges, they offer automatic merit, but what that means is that they've got a chart and basically or some criteria, and hopefully they make it public, and your student automatically, they will review, does your student's qualifications meet, the college's qualifications for offering merit, and then they automatically will offer it. And then kind of a third variation, which is maybe a combination of both those two, is that if a college is offering automatic merit, it also just means that every application that comes through is going to be reviewed about whether or not they have the potential to receive merit, that there isn't an additional step like submitting another application or submitting another essay that the student has to do. So actually, let me share my screen, and I'll show you some of the numbers that I just talked about. Okay, so can you guys give in the chat? Just want to make sure. Oops, I lost my chat. Oh, here it is. Just want to make sure that I can that you guys can see the screen. This is our search website called Insights. Can somebody just give me like a thumbs up, making sure I'm showing the right screen? Sometimes I show something else that's on my laptop. Okay. Okay. Just nobody. I'll just keep going.
We can see it.
Thank you. Okay. So I don't know if anybody here has tried this out. Sorry, I am getting over a cold. So this is our website called insights.rhodescollege.com. It makes it much easier to search for colleges and a lot of the data. If you're looking for colleges with merit scholarships, it makes it really easy. So let me just show you. We have an area called Discover. And this is our database of colleges with not all, but a significant amount of information that you might find in the Common App. I'm sorry, in the Common Data Set. So if you've been looking at the Common Data Set, there's different sections. To me, the two most important sections are Section C, which talk about admissions, and Section H, which talk about the money, financial aid, and merit scholarships that colleges offer. We have all of that information here, and we make it searchable. So, and you can search on every data field in different combinations. So I'm going to go to the filters here. And so we were talking about merit. So here there's a column that says the average merit award for freshmen without need. So you can actually search and say, show me schools that offer merit of between 5,000 and more. And you don't even have to put a cap to it. We can also look at oops, no, let's add a filter. We want to look at, okay, so I think, yeah. So this is freshmen without need receiving merit aid. So this is a percentage number. So, we can put in, we want to find the schools that give everybody a merit scholarship. So we'll just put in 100. So this is the percentage of freshmen without need who are receiving merit aid, 100%. Let's see what happens. Okay, so there are 146 colleges that just are offering everybody a merit scholarship. We don't know what the size of the merit scholarship is, but let's go, and now you can sort the column that says the average merit award. And let's see, didn't sort in the right order yet. Okay, I have to check this out. I don't know why it's not sorting in descending order, but you can see that some of that there are, Agnes Scott College is giving a 37,000 merit scholarship award to 100% of the students. So when I see this, this says to me, this school is just using merit scholarships as a discount. So because basically they're setting their tuition or their cost of attendance at a certain price, and then because they want to maybe look more expensive, but then everybody who's applying, they're giving them a discount. Not saying that that's bad, but you should kind of be aware of that. So let's go back to filters and let's reset them. And in a different way, let's look at the average merit award for that might maybe, oh, you know what? Actually, there's one other field we have, which I kind of like, which is also the net cost after average merit award. So now we've done the math. So we've taken I mean, it's not difficult math, but we've taken the cost of attendance and we subtracted the average merit scholarship. And now we have this field called net cost after average merit award, because at the end of the day, right, it's most important to know what the net cost is going to be to you, not just what the merit scholarship amount is. And now you can search by that range. So maybe after merit, you want to find a school that is between 40 and 50,000. So let's put that in. So net cost after merit, we're going to start 40,000 to 50,000. I think I have too many O's in there. Yep. Okay. Okay, so there are 206 of those colleges. And now you can go through and search about what those colleges are. You can also still look at this column that says the freshmen without need receiving merit. Some of these are still high, like Adelphi University is giving 78% of the students a merit award, but some of them obviously are, being more selective. So that's another way to understand the colleges and what they're offering. So here's an example, Tufts University. Yeah, if I search by the net cost after merit, it looks like, oh, Tufts could be $47,000, but we know that Tufts is selective. And so they are giving merit, but they're only giving it to 6% of the students without need. So that's why it's important to look at a combination of these stats, not just one piece of information. The same thing, Boston University. We use them as an example. They give out merit scholarships, but they're only giving it to 13% of the students. So, this is the way you can use data. Sorry, I think I kind of got off the question that I was answering, but let me go back and see what else we've got. Okay. Um, does it matter? Does it make a difference in terms of merit aid if you apply test optional? Um, again, that's going to be a school by school situation, and you may not even know. I think the question about applying, I think you should be more concerned about whether or not your student submits the test score based on, about the student's likelihood of being accepted, and not necessarily worry about the merit. Because if your student doesn't have a strong enough, if your student isn't submitting the test score because they feel that it's below the 50th percentile of that school, then you're not going to submit the test score just for the fact of merit, because they may not look like a strong student. So I would make the decisions about whether or not the student is going to submit the test based on, where you feel that student's test score is relative to the range of the test scores for the school. The other piece of information I will look at, sorry, and I'm going to go back to Insights, is another piece of information which we have, which is important to look at, which comes from the common data set, is what percentage of the students who enrolled submitted a test score. And okay, let me find that. Okay, so we have it for, you can look at percent of students submitting the ACT or the SAT. And not to reference another webinar, but we just did this webinar last night with David Blowbaum. And actually, you guys might not have been invited because it was really for juniors and sophomores to talk about test prep strategy. But he went into detail about the data that he looks at to determine and to help students decide whether or not to submit their test scores. And a lot of it is related to two pieces of information that are on the common data set. One is in a section called admissions factors, and I can show you that. And the other is this piece of information about what percentage of students are submitting their SATs or ACTs. Not every school is sharing that information, but if a school does, I would definitely look at it. So, so let's look at, show me the schools where the students who are submitting SAT scores are greater than, let's just say, 30%. Because as David explained, the way he views this is these are the students who who applied, who were accepted, and then enrolled. And so you can only imagine if the number was like 30% of the students who enrolled, then there's a really likelihood that the students who got accepted also probably is higher than 30%, because a lower percentage of those students are, well, so basically this is like the low end, and you can only imagine that we don't have the perfect information. The perfect information would be what percentage of students who applied also submitted their test scores. They don't share that, but they're sharing what percentage of students submitted their test scores of those who enrolled. And so these percentages are probably higher kind of the earlier back you go in the process. So, okay, well, let's, okay, so let's look at that column. Okay, so we did it based on SATs. And so again, this gives you a sense. Let's just pick, okay, Boston College just so happens it comes up again. So 30% of the students who enrolled also submitted their test scores. So if my student, so that again probably means that there's a higher percentage of students who actually got accepted who also submitted their test scores, and even a slightly higher percentage of students who applied and also got and also submitted their test scores. So if my student had a test score that was in the 50th percentile or higher for Boston College, I would submit it. Because students, the more selective colleges and the more competitive colleges, they are going back to using SAT and ACT scores to better differentiate, students' academic strengths. The other piece of information I was going to show you that relates to SAT scores. Sorry. Let me find it here. Let me do it this way. Okay. We don't have it for Boston College, but well, let's go to Boston College's common data set. Oh boy, they're making us download it. Okay, instead of downloading it, let's just go to a different school. Just I'll show you where this is. Let's go to Tulane. Okay, I have to search for, okay, this is, so basically I'm looking for a section that's called admission factors. Oh, here it is. And so so this is Tulane, and and every college has the same list. They have a set of academic factors and non-academic factors. And this is a little bit of a clue. This is kind of their rubric about what is important to them when they're looking at applications. Almost every college is going to say the rigor of the school students' classes. That's the first one. Some schools actually don't actually even look at class rank anymore because so many high schools don't offer it. So I'm surprised that Tulane lists it as high, but I guess if your college is showing, I'm sorry, if your high school is showing a class rank, they're going to consider it. But usually the two that are very important are the academic rigor and the student's GPA. And so sometimes here you can see Tulane is test optional, but in the second tier down, they are saying that standardized test scores are still important to them. So that's a clue that if your student has a good enough score to submit it, because I've seen a lot of test optional schools that say standardized test scores are just being considered. So that's a difference to me if a college is going to mark it as important versus considered. And back to the question about, I know you asked, should my student be submitting the test scores for merit? Again, I would kind of just base it, should your students be submitting the test scores just to improve the strength of their application and overall to be, admitted? I would be looking at this section about the academic and non-academic factors and see where that test optional school either marks it as important, considered, or sometimes they'll even say, well, they probably won't say not considered because test optional, they'll still be looking at test scores. And then also look if they've shared what percentage of the students who enrolled also submitted a test score. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. Let's go back to the chat. So do colleges need the CSS profile for merit aid when need-based aid is not a possibility? Most likely not, but I'm just going to say that a school that is asking for the most of the schools that ask for the CSS profile, not all, tend to be schools that are more generous in need-based aid. So they're trying to look at, all the ins and outs of your finances to see, are you eligible under, their criteria to receive need-based aid. So if you, and some of those schools, the household income levels are higher than what you expect, or, and families still receive some level of need-based aid. Again, they also tend to be really difficult and selective schools to get into, but, there are some schools that you could have a household income of $250,000 and you might still receive aid. So, but to answer your question specifically, I generally, I would say no. You don't have to submit the CSS profile for merit, but honestly, the best is just ask the school. Say, I'm not applying for need-based aid. I want my student to still be considered for merit, or your student can ask this. I want my student to still be considered for merit. Do I need to be, do you need the CSS profile for that? And they'll hopefully be honest, and I doubt that they will need it for merit. Some schools do ask for the FAFSA as part of their merit process. And it's not that they're using it to determine whether your student should get merit or not. They just want to, as part of their, kind of systems, they just want to confirm that you're not eligible for any federal aid. So ask about that as well. I can give advice and we can look at data, but sometimes the best source is you still have to go directly to the college to ask these specific questions, because the college's policies just vary too much college to college. Would love to know what my child's chances are of getting merit aid for state schools. Where we would be out-of-state students, what would typically be the criteria? This is such a broad question. It's so hard to answer. I would say in general, state schools give less merit aid than private schools. They just don't have the resources, except for some of the state schools that have made a big play at it, like, University of Alabama. Honestly, I would check the same stats that I showed you in our Insights platform, or if you want to go directly to the common data set, I would look at what the average. So unfortunately, colleges don't necessarily break out their information by in-state versus out-of-state. We wish they would. Maybe there's a college here or there that might share admission rates for in-state versus out-of-state, but a lot of the public colleges just don't. So you're not going to be able to find a merit breakdown of in-state versus out-of-state on a statistical level. I will go back again to Insights to show you one piece of information that we do have that might help a little bit. Let's go. Okay, so the one thing that we have, which I think we pride ourselves on, because we crowdsource families college offers, and this has been real. So this is actual families sharing what their student got, and we get a little bit more information about who the student is. So this is really helpful to, it might give a clue as to answering the question that you're asking about in-state versus out-of-state, and I'll show you how. I'm just going to pick a out-of-state, a public school. Let's do Penn State. Okay, here at Penn State University Park. That's the main campus. And you can get to the crowdsource offers on the table, but if you go to the detail page, you can also go to the Aid and Merit Scholarships tab, and we list all the offers that families have shared with us. So this is for this past year. So these are for students who went through the admissions process last year, have just started school in the fall, to look at in-state versus out-of-state, what we can do is we'll sort by the state, because now we know what state the students are from. So you can see there aren't that many students who are out of state that got merit from Penn State. Here's one student that got 5,000, but this is just one example. Here's a student that got 6,000, 2,000, but even of the students who got money, they didn't get like a lot. So this is one way to give you directionally whether students from out of state are getting merit aid and if they're getting more or not. You can go back to a previous year too if you want to, although with all the changes that are happening, I don't know how far back I would go. But here, let's sort again on out of state. And again, same type of thing, random, some students here or there. Actually, so interesting. Looks like the students who received merit, or at least who shared, were from Pennsylvania, but most out-of-state students didn't receive. This is at Penn State. Most out-of-state students didn't receive merit. So that's just a source that you can use, but unfortunately, there isn't great data that's going to tell you that. But if that's a school your student wants to apply to, as long as you're not applying early decision where you're committed, then send it in, and you'll have to see what they get and then compare it to all the other offers. Okay. Okay, so I'll just reiterate, just because somebody's asking again, wondering how important the FAFSA CSS is in terms of getting merit aid. We will probably not qualify for need-based aid. The safest thing is just ask the school, do you need to submit it? A lot of schools you don't. There are a handful of schools that ask more so for the FAFSA than the CSS profile, just because it's part of their processing. My daughter has applied to a few colleges. I'm wondering if the CSS profile, and when it opens, is it through the College Board? So the CSS profile opens at the same time, usually, as FAFSA, although they're independent. So in years when there were problems with FAFSA, the CSS profile still opened around October 1st, or on October 1st, even though the FAFSA had problems. This year, there doesn't seem to be any problems at all with FAFSA. In fact, I've been reading that people can actually request to submit your FAFSA early if you just want to get it over with. But I think you have to apply. There's a link on the education site, and at this point you might want to just wait till October 1st. And the CSS profile is a form that is through the College Board. There are a handful of colleges that have their own version of an additional financial aid form that they ask you to process. It's not through the College Board. I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 of them, and they're again for like selective colleges. But if your student is applying early action, early decision, and it's a school that is asking for the CSS profile, I would also make sure that you know the deadlines for financial aid. So the deadlines for financial aid can be different than the deadlines that your student has for the actual application. In a regular decision, you have a little bit more time. Sometimes the deadline could be January 1st for the application, and the financial aid deadline might not be till February 1st. So it gives you a little bit of breathing space. But for early admission, it's more condensed. I've seen a few now, especially on the November 15th deadline, where the deadline for the application is the same deadline for the financial aid forms. So I would definitely check that out. Honestly, my guess is for anything that's like an October deadline or a November 1st deadline, that probably the financial aid deadline is not past November 15th, because they need your information to review it and make a decision on aid. So that's my one piece of advice, is definitely look at what those financial aid deadlines are, and don't leave the CSS profile to the last minute. It is just a lot of information. You do not need help. I really do not believe that people need help with the FAFSA. They have improved it in the past 2 years. Part of that improvement is that they take your income information and a little bit of other information directly from the IRS system. So there's nothing you do. They automatically pull that. And then the other information that you enter is related to your investments and assets, which really is pretty straightforward and is not difficult. So I truly do not believe that people should pay anybody for help with the FAFSA. And we'll do a walkthrough of that as well, so you can come to that and ask questions. The CSS profile, is more difficult. The questions are just a little confusing, and so I would go through it slowly. I would leave yourself enough time. Don't rush it at the end of the deadline. And if you're gonna pay for any help, and I don't think that it's bad to pay for help for that, we actually have a service where we will review your CSS profile, just making sure you answered the questions correctly, or we can actually walk through it and help you fill it out as well. So if there's any place that you might want to spend a little bit of money to make sure you're filling it out correctly, I would do it on the CSS profile. Please do not spend any money related to filling out the FAFSA. Okay. So Sandra's asking, if you don't submit test scores, does it harm your student for merit aid? Again, it's going to be a school by school issue. I would say if your student doesn't submit the test scores, but you still want them to be, and it's a test optional school, there are definitely schools that are giving merit to students who don't submit the test scores. But, again, look at the data that I showed you in terms of what percentage of students who enrolled are submitting the test scores. And so you can see in general what the population is leaning towards. But if your student's not submitting test scores, then just make sure that the rest of their application is strong academically relative to what that college is looking for. So are your students grades, is their GPA at the high end of what that school is looking for? Do they have a strong activities list? You just want to make sure that the application is as strong as possible relative to what that school is looking for if they're not submitting test scores. And again, look at the percentage of students who receive merit. Maybe it's just a school that gives a lot of students merit, and so then the fact that they're not submitting test scores is not going to be as much of a factor. So somebody's asking, if you have a good mix of colleges on your list, some of which are known for merit, I'm glad to hear that, do you need to include more to help leverage merit offers? Is it better to have a few schools you are less interested in to use as a potential leverage? I think so. Can you have a leverage school for every school that your student is applying to? No. But so there's something called peer colleges, and colleges kind of think of like who their competition is, and they consider that a peer college. And if you can find out what colleges, the peer group is that the college that your student is applying to, what the other colleges are that they're considered their peer, and your student is willing to apply to, and one of those peer colleges offers merit, I would throw it into the mix. I wouldn't go crazy with this because you don't want to overload your students' workload. But again, maybe it's also a simple school to apply to because they're not asking for any additional essays. So there's a resource. We were looking into this data to get it, and we haven't had a chance to add it to our database. But there is a resource. I think it's the Chronicle of Higher Ed. Let me see if I can find it, and then yeah, let's see. Okay, I don't know if they have a resource or not, but I'm going to put this in the chat. They have an article on it. I do know that IPEDS, which is the source from the federal government, has a way that you can look up a college's peer institutions. It's a little complicated, or not straightforward, I should say. So this article might give you better directions, but I'm just putting that in chat. Something else is just Google, like whatever school your student is interested in. Again, I'm just using it as an example, like Tulane University, say Tulane University peer institutions. Sometimes actually colleges have that information on their own website because they talk about who their peers are. So that might be a way of getting it, or they might be, in some other higher ed article about that college. But do a little research, see who you can find out who the peers are, and yes, I think if you could put in one, maybe two at the most, it could help. And in that leveraging when your student gets back all of their offers and you're comparing them all, and you want to do an appeal, and you're not appealing for financial reasons, you're appealing because you want to see if you can get better merit, having an offer from a school that a college views as their competition will definitely get their attention. Okay. Okay, somebody asked, going back to the Insights um, platform or tool that we use. She said, "Can you filter all this information with the free version of your site?" I don't think you can. I think you can just filter what we call the default fields, but you don't have access to filter all of the fields. That's something you only get with the paid version. But I'm just being, again, honest. You can sign up for just a month, which is $24.99, and just use it for the month and cancel. So, if you want to just do some quick research and get access to all the information and all the filters, that's a simple way of doing it. Is there a way to filter out schools that require the CSS profile? Yes, there is. On Insights, there is. So you can, say, show me the schools that we have that as a column. Does the school require the CSS profile? And so in the filters, you can just use that as a filter and say, show me the schools where if they require a CSS profile is no, and then by definition you've filtered out all of the colleges that actually require the form. And sometimes, depending on your family situation, there are real reasons why some families might want to avoid applying to a school that's asking for the CSS profile, because it is much more invasive financially. That's one reason. Another reason for divorced families, there might be benefits that, depending on the financial situation of the parent who's filling out the FAFSA, that they are applying only to FAFSA schools, because a CSS profile school, because a CSS profile school, and for divorced families, most likely will ask for the non-custodial parent to fill out a supplemental version of the CSS profile. So they're getting information from both parents. The FAFSA only will ask for information. It will only have one parent fill out the FAFSA. In this case now, the criteria has changed. It's the parent who supports the student more financially. But even if that's the case, that it might be more beneficial for that situation that they are only looking at schools that ask for the FAFSA and not for the CSS profile. So yeah, that's definitely a valid strategy to use. Are there separate forms to fill out for scholarships, or are you automatically considered when your application is submitted? This is, again, a school by school situation. I will just go back to my regular presentation. I don't have it in there, but so some schools you have to fill out a separate application for the merit scholarships. I will also say they also have a separate deadline for merit scholarships. And I don't have it quickly at hand, but the example we usually give is University of Southern California. Actually, in the past, you had to apply by December 1st. I think it is, yeah, December 1st to, you had to apply early to be considered for merit. They had a regular decision deadline, which was later, but if you didn't apply to the earlier deadline, then even if you were eligible for merit, you weren't going to be considered for merit. So definitely check out deadlines related to merit scholarships. They may absolutely be different than regular decision deadlines, and some colleges may require, if you want to be considered for merit, that you have to apply as part of the early admission round. So I don't think there's any college that is forcing a student to apply early decision to get merit, but a lot of colleges may have the requirement that you have to apply early action to be considered for merit. Somebody's asking, are there sources that tell you not the likely automatic merit amount, but I don't know what TCOA is. Are you talking about total cost of attendance? So yes, total cost of attendance you can get off of any college website. You can Google the college name and just the words cost of attendance. Every college has to have a page that shows you their total cost of attendance. We also have that data in Insights as a way to sort. But if the TCOA if that's what it's referring to, total cost of attendance, yes, each college has it, and we have it in Insights as well. Um, So somebody's asking, what determines who gets merit? Tim subscribes to our Insights tool, and I have looked at the crowdsource offers. Some students with very high GPAs and test scores get very little, while other students with lower GPAs and test scores get higher merit at the same school, even if they applied early action. That's another good question. And what other fields you might not be looking at, or maybe you have but didn't consider it, is there are colleges that I would call, well, they're whole ranges, colleges that are need aware and need blind. There is a handful of need blind schools. I mean, maybe 10 or less. Again, they tend to be the highly selective schools that have a lot of money. And they are not looking at anybody's financial situation to determine whether a student is accepted or not. Need aware schools that are giving merit may very likely look at a combination of your student's academic score, making sure that they're the strongest student that a college is going to offer merit schools to, and if this college is merit aware or need aware, is a combination of a very strong academic student and a family that has a strong financial situation, so that they are probably a full pay family. So what you might not have factored in is not just looking at the students' GPAs and test scores, but also, and the information we have in the crowdsource area is what we just ask for. We just share people's SAI range. That's not disclosing what their household income is, but a family with a high SAI, obviously 80,000 or above, is not going to get any need-based aid, and kind of gives you the clue that they're probably a full pay family. Full pay doesn't mean that you want to pay full price. Full pay is that the college is considering that you have the resources to pay the full amount. So, so the third criteria that you didn't include, GPAs, test scores, and the financial strength of that family. So maybe go back and look at the SAIs and to see if that gave you a clue. Okay, good question. So in general, is merit aid from large state schools reserved mostly for in-state students? My child is applying to 9 public out-of-state schools. Actually, in my experience, although I've kind of shared that state schools don't generally give that much merit, if they're giving merit, they actually give more to the out-of-state student, because they want to attract the out-of-state student, even though that they're going to give them merit. That out-of-state student is going to net them more revenue, even having given them merit. So, so I think, between an in-state student getting merit versus an out-of-state, if the university is offering merit, they probably are likely to be offering it more to out-of-state students. But again, the dollar amounts of what they're offering aren't big. My daughter is applying to 2 comparable schools that both offer 20 to 30,000 of merit. How often does a school increase merit to match a comparable school, such as a small private Catholic college in neighboring states offer? Another good question. I've seen a fair amount, college admission has become more competitive financially for the colleges, and that which is benefiting the families. In the appeal process, which generally happens in the February to April timeframe, if a college wants a student, both academically, maybe even financially, they want the student because and you have an offer from another school that's a good merit offer. I've definitely seen the colleges increase 5,000 to kind of just make their offer a tiny bit better than what your other offer is. So They won't just increase it because you can point to another school that says, oh, they offer merit. Your student has to have been offered the merit at that other school. So that I would just make sure that your student is applying to some of these other schools that you're talking about that you think might be a leveraged school. I see that there is non-academic criteria, I guess, looking at the factors that we looked at about considered geographic location. Do they take that into account where a student lives for admission and aid? Not so much aid, but definitely colleges that want a geographic diversity will take into account, where your student might be coming from, definitely. And sometimes they do make it more explicit in those admission factors that we looked at. So pull up the college's common data set and look at the admission factor. And, if they are saying geographic location is something that they are considering, then, if your student is coming from a location that is just where they don't normally get a lot of students from, or they haven't taken a lot of students from in the past, yeah, they probably might have an advantage. So does early application give more chances of getting scholarships and financial aid? So my belief is that for need-based aid, applying early isn't going to make a difference. The college has their formula about how they're going to offer need-based aid, and whether you're applying early action, early decision, or regular decision, you're going to get the same amount of need-based aid. Merit scholarships, again, it might vary college to college. Some colleges do give more merit in the early admission process or season because they want to see if they can just get that student to decide and commit. And others might give, others play, I don't want to, I guess I will say it's a little bit of a game. They will give just one offer or just their standard offer as part of early admission, and then they'll see later on who they might need to increase the offer to try and get them to commit. So there isn't like direct information that's going to tell you which school has done this in the past. Again, you can look at the crowdsource information. You might actually get a little bit of a hint to see, did people, because we also have in there another piece of information is, did the student apply early, admission or regular admission? And then I would also just do a Google search, because if a school, like the example of Syracuse, what they did last year, if they did something like that, it's going to be, written about. So you might want to see if whatever particular school you're looking at, if they had some sort of change of policy of offering merit in the past, and if that might have been written up. And actually, another thing is, whether it's in the Paying for College 101 Facebook group or any other Facebook group, ask other parents what their experience has been. That people will love to share that information. Is there a separate application one needs to fill out for consideration for merit apart from FAFSA and CSS profile? That is college by college dependent. I think I already talked about it. Some schools definitely have separate application, separate scholarship, essay that needs to be written. Other schools, it is just automatic. So you have to really look at each individual school your student is applying to and see what their processes are for merit. Are the GPAs shown in the crowdsource offer area weighted? No, those are unweighted GPAs. We always ask people to share their unweighted GPAs. When do you have to have the FAFSA completed for merit? Again, that's going to be school by school. Just see if sometimes the school just actually includes it in their page there. They talk about merit scholarships. You have your student reach out to the admissions officer and just ask, do I need to fill out FAFSA if I'm applying for merit, or I want to be considered for merit scholarships, but I'm not actually applying for financial aid. So and then make sure you have it in by whatever deadlines they're asking for. Where can I find the links to create the FAFSA and CSS profiles? The CSS profile is on the College Board website, and the FAFSA is at the federal government site. You could just, Google FAFSA login, and you'll get the link to set it up. We will be doing a webinar for the CSS profile. So I think right now, right around, honestly, I don't have the date in front of me, but usually like right around October 1st. Actually, I think it's like let me see when October 1st is. October, yeah, I think we actually are doing it on October 1st is we are, is the actual FAFSA walkthrough. And then the webinar for the CSS profile is going to be October 9th, so a week later. And you'll get all that in the emails. I'm not going to go into too much about like the requirements for the FAFSA and the CSS profile because we'll do that in a different webinar. Let's see, being that it has been less consistent as to whether you will get accepted in colleges that you are within the range and are looking for more than just standard merit, how do you pick or find the colleges that know you are above their regular range and would be willing to entice you with money? Good question. So you need to see where your students' stats and GPA, but mainly test scores, and I'll explain why, are in the school's what we call 75th percentile. So that's where the top 25% of the students score the best for the students who have been accepted at that college in the past. So I will show you that information. That information is in a school's common data set. Again, we just make it easier by looking at it, by pulling all that information together and have it in our insights. But you want to find the schools where your students' test scores are in the top 25% or the 75th percentile, and the school gives merit. So many times somebody will say, well, my student had great scores, they actually got into the school, but they didn't get any merit. Well, the school wasn't offering merit. So you have to look at both factors. Does the school offer merit, and is your student strong academically relative to the students that apply there? Why it's hard to go by GPA is because, and I wish we had better data on it, but again, the colleges just don't offer it. A large number of colleges don't share information about GPA. And I used to be frustrated about that or annoyed at the colleges, and but I've come to realize, or I've actually heard this directly from a dean of admission, it's not that they are purposely not sharing it. It's just much, much harder to standardize all of the GPA information that comes through from students at different schools. So they just don't go to that effort to kind of normalize the GPA information so that they can put it into the common data set. But because the SAT, ACT scores are already standardized, it's much more easy to share that information, and they tend to share that information. More colleges share that information. It's just easier for them. So if your student didn't take the test score or didn't take the tests, you can look at, there are charts that give you an estimate of students' GPA, and if they had taken a score, what their test score might have been. So you can kind of use those conversion tables. If your student took the test, but they're still not submitting it, I would still, maybe for searching or research purposes, use their test score to see, where their test score falls relative to the school that they're applying to. So I'll just show you quickly, again, going back to the Insights platform. So you can filter, this is like one of the popular filters that we have, the schools where you pick your range. Your students' SAT or ACT is in the 75th percentile. This is the reason why we have this filter, because we want to help people find the colleges that can offer their student merit. So I'll just give you an example. If you want to find colleges where your student maybe their SAT was a 1350, I would say, then show me the schools where the SAT 75th percentile is between 1300 and 1400. And I would also then put in making sure that that school also offers merit. So I'm going to just kind of say and make sure that they offer more than $5,000 of merit, because I want to make this worthwhile. So now the filter can narrow it down. There are 178 schools that have those two criteria. You can go to the merit column and then sort those schools based on, if you want to obviously see which is giving the most merit to that student. Looks like Kalamazoo College is giving a ton of merit to students in that range. Beloit College, again, Goucher College. Some of these are good schools. Whitworth. So then you just go down this list and look at the other stats that might be important to you. And now you can dig deeper into each of these colleges. But at least now you've narrowed down the list to say, okay, these are the schools that offer merit and have and my child has a really good likelihood of getting merit because they're at the top of the academic range, and you can see how much merit the colleges actually offer. Okay. Can you find deadlines for application for merit on the college websites, or is there a centralized resource to find it? There isn't a centralized resource. And if there was, I would have found it. You have to go to the college's website for their merit scholarship deadlines, if they have specific deadlines. And I wouldn't even rely on the Common App. I would really go to the college's website. How can divorced families use the net price calculator to estimate institutional aid when applying early decision? Was told to have each parent do them separately and then add their EFCs. Well, it's not EFCs now, it's SAIs. Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, it's always been kind of difficult for divorced parents to estimate their costs because of what you're running into. I wouldn't necessarily add their SAIs, but I mean, maybe you can. I don't have a good answer to that one. The only other thing is I'd say is if you can reach out to the college directly, they might be willing to do like a pre-read on your financial aid. But then both, families would have to submit their financial information. Yes, I'm going to send this recording after. I'm really curious. This is the first time I didn't go through an official slide deck and just, was going through answering people's questions. So please share if this was helpful, or if next time you still want me to go to maybe through a mini version of slides. I'm open to feedback, want to hear, what's most helpful to families, particularly at this stage in the process, because I've done the presentations multiple times over the past few months, but I don't mind doing them again. So just want to kind of hear what's helpful for people. Okay. Can you update your GPAs, regular or weighted, after the first semester, as you can do for the SAT scores? So if your student has applied to a college and then they get, their first semester grades and their GPA goes up, absolutely. Make sure that the college is getting the, transcript with the first semester grades. And if their GPA has increased, this is a perfect opportunity for your student to email their admissions rep, email the admissions office, and share that information, and that information will be included in their file. So that's the best way of doing it. Somebody's asking, does the Insights tool have the ability to show colleges with co-op programs as well as admit rates for specific programs such as engineering and nursing? So we do have a column that says whether the college has a co-op program, so you can filter by that. We do not have a breakout for admit rates by specific programs for engineering and nursing. those are becoming, well, engineering has always been very competitive, and nursing has become very competitive. Um, Honestly, don't not many schools break that information out. Um, University of Illinois happens to break it out, but if I dug, maybe we would find 10 schools that break that information out by specific major. So there's just not enough of that data available for us to search for it and include it. I so wish that colleges, did that, but unfortunately they don't. One thing that we are going to add, which we don't have right now, but is more information about direct admit programs for nursing, because that has become a very popular way of getting a nursing degree. Where can a list of colleges that offer merit with application and not separately? I'm assuming you're asking, is there a list of, can you produce a list of colleges where you have to fill out an additional application, or it's just automatic? We don't have that information. It kind of changes sometimes year to year. So the best is to kind of narrow down to the schools where your student can get merit, and then go look at the college's website. Okay, so somebody did say that the slide presentation would definitely be helpful because this is their first time attending, and I get it. So everybody, or I will do slides in the future. Maybe I'll just do shortened versions of them. But we have all of our public webinars on our YouTube channel, and so if you want to see more about the official presentation that I normally go through, go to the YouTube channel, go to my most recent one. I honestly do these multiple times a year, and make some updates each time I do it. But I'm looking right now. The one I did most recently was 2 weeks ago, and it was called Using the Common Data Set to Find Merit Scholarships. So that's a good one. I went through the Common Data Set. I showed sections of the Common Data Set that are important to look at, and then I showed how we have that information in Insights, and how to do the searching. And I also just talked about merit scholarships in general. A lot of what I talked about today, but maybe more in a more formal structure to go through the information. So definitely look at the website and go back to that webinar from 2 weeks ago. Okay, do we ask for letters of recommendation after we submit the application to a college, or anytime? I would not wait to submit the application and then ask for recommendations. I would do it now. The letters of recommendation don't have to go in at the same time as your student's application, but usually the teachers that are being asked just get overloaded with writing the recommendations, and the guidance counselor. I mean, hopefully they know that they're going to write it in general. So honestly, we tell students that at the end of junior year to be asking the teachers to write recommendations, because it's most likely that you're going to ask a teacher from junior year because they had your student the whole year, as opposed to a student who a teacher that you just started with right away. So I would do it immediately about asking for recommendations. You want to, for the respect of the person who's writing the recommendation, you want to give them time and not make them feel pressured. Yes, so we will send out a email probably tomorrow with a link to this recording. If you want, I'll also include the link to the YouTube channel. I'll include a link to the 2 other webinars we did about the Common App, and the last official presentation I did about merit scholarships and the Common Data Set. Can you keep taking SATs after you apply and send updated scores, or send scores when you previously haven't? Yes, you can. So for 2 purposes. One is, maybe your students submitted because they wanted to meet a certain deadline, but they got the they got their scores back a little bit after that. Schools will still sometimes take those scores if it's before if they can still process it as part of like whatever the early admission deadline that your student is applying to. But more so, some schools may accept your student and still give you the opportunity up until February for your student to submit a better SAT or ACT score. And at that point, they're not using it for admission. They're using it because they might be offering merit scholarships at different levels depending on your student's test score. So definitely ask the school. There are a lot of schools that will accept test scores later on, and mainly for the purpose of getting and offering your student more merit. Okay, so, oh my gosh, it's 20 after 1. I appreciate your time. I hope this was helpful. I got a little bit of feedback, so I think next time I will, if I'm not doing my full official presentation, I'll at least add in like, 3 or 4 slides of what I think is the most important information for people to see. And then we'll jump to pure questions. But keep at it. Support your students. I know it's also a lot of work on the parent side, and just don't wait till the last minute. That's my biggest advice. It just is, just in anything in life, it creates pressure, and it also creates errors. Maybe you'll make an error in the CSS profile. Maybe your student will miss something that they wanted to write better in their essays. Maybe they'll miss, something that they needed to submit. So just, give yourself and your student enough time, and it will be over soon, promise. Okay, reach out if anybody needs any help, if you've got questions about the Insights tool, or the best service we offer, I have to say, is the Common App Review. Again, you can go look at the webinar we did last week where Ellen actually did a sample review of somebody's Common App. We can do that in 2 ways. We can look at your student's Common App after they've filled it out, and someone like Ellen, who has viewed thousands of essays and Common Apps, gives a very professional read through of the Common App, finds nitpicky things as well as bigger strategic issues, and is a great kind of third-party set of eyes that is purely objective and reading everything and saying, does this all come together, and did your student kind of present themselves in the best way that they possibly could? So that's one way of doing it. And the other way is if your student's really having issues filling out the Common App, we can kind of hold their hands and help them fill it out. But I think that the second way is really beneficial and gives people, like, either gives you a lot of peace of mind that your student did a good job, or we find, some things that can really, clean it up and just make it a stronger Common App. Okay, everyone, enjoy the nice fall day, and I will see you soon. Bye.